wouldn't be saying if I needed to go for a shit like. But anyway, too much information. Um, yeah, so I'll show you what I mean, because there was a prime example of, and it basically stemmed from uh, like a higher time frame approach, and then like it kind of transitioned into, for example, trading the ES, and then I realized, well, I'm getting my shifts primarily changed to 2 till 10s, aka the evening ones, and which is good, and therefore I'm not going to be able to have the New York session, which is okay, because I don't really want to trade that anyway. And then I also looked at Tesla trading it the same way, but obviously relative time frames. But anyway, I'll show you. So, ooh, okay. So this is what I mean. So you look at the monthly, and then you see whatever, you discern whatever the monthly in play are and pushes, which is clearly this trend to the downside of how market participants have been trading like over the most recent past few time periods. Now, the amount of time durations that it's been unfolding over for is quite few, or small, and so the enthusiasm for participants to keep trading to the downside is still there, for sure, relative to how many time period this push unfolded for. But yeah, and it doesn't look done really, to be fair. And this bar closed on the 2nd of December. But it did leave a weak rejection, which, uh, if we were to get on board with that monthly direction, we would want to see the market retrace to the monthly hand pushes OTR, which on the 2 week looks like this. And yeah, so and the way the 2 weeks chart set up, like, is set up the way participants trade like over 2 week time periods, and the intent they exhibited that's behind the formation of each of those bars, um, did contribute to each of those bars comprised within this hand push to the downside, creating a configuration which it does display that participants' intent and interest is somewhat diminishing to trade with regard to how they're willing to trade, like with the price water available on this occasion. Now, and anyway, so from the I dropped to the weekly next, and here I was like, yeah, okay, um, it does make sense to draw a box of where at least participants intend to trade is likely to push to. And to be fair, now that I'm looking at this, it looks like it could actually have been even higher. Could have had about this, to be fair. Let me just verify that. $8.16. So you see, that's basically the high. So, um, and that's just like my pure experience of where at least I would expect this push to push to, you know? We'd likely to go to the retrace, but still, we would want to cut off, you know? Because we only want to trade high probability things. Anyway, the weekly intent to trade is also set up of the sort where participants are likely to be done pushing to the downside. This push to the downside's over. This is a new push in play. Let me just keep an eye on this. What's going on? Oh god. Oh. Yeah, this is a bit weird, like, to be fair. This is not nice price action at all. But yeah, we'll be hovering around break even right now. It's still valid for sure. But anyway, So yeah, this is what you would see. And this push to the downside looks done based on how participants trade like over the most recent bar close. And you can also kind of derive some sort of context from the way that this little wick reject formed too. And then immediately after they traded in the way that formed this push to be set up as done, and no longer the in-play and push, and this to be the in-play and push. And to be the in-play and push until participants say otherwise. With regard to the way they trade, like what presents information that says otherwise, I should say. Alright, so, and it's sat right at the very lows, you know, the monthly is poised to push to up here, even, like, I would say, yeah, like there, literally, or at least above this high, and then we'll just keep dropping down the time frames as the most recent bar closes, that close at on the second, so we wouldn't be looking at the 4-day, would we be looking at the 3-day? Yes, we would look at the 3-day. It looks very nice to keep pushing to the upside. Now we can also adjust this box relative to the 2-week intent that's likely to prevail over from the close of the 2-week bar, up to a certain point, based on how, for example, the time frames below 2-week down to, I would probably say 2-day or set up 2. You know, so if this was set up a bit iffy, you could maybe bring this a bit lower, just a tiny bit lower though, on the basis of the structure here. Anyway, yeah, so I'll quickly draw what I mean of participants' intent coming to an end with regard to the intent they're seen to primarily be maintaining over consecutive running time periods. So if we just start from the in-frame chart perspective, as I've been mentioning, you would have this. Comes down and kind of traded to the upside. This looks done based on how they traded here, and then we get higher. Still the in-play out and push to the downside. The way they traded here suggests it's done. This would be the high. This suggests it's done. This mini push to the upside. Mini push to the downside. Bar close. It's a bit iffy here based on how this bar closed, after the way that this bar closed, but then the way this bar closed, confirms that this push to the downside is done. So this would be the low before that push to the downside became done. And then this push to the upside. This bar set up this mini in-play and push to the upside as done. Same thing. Low. This would be the low. I don't think I can mark it. Yeah, whatever. I'll just delete it. Same thing here. I'll just not ramble and just mark it. So this is a bit iffy, but it's definitely showing signs. So I just mark it like this. Yeah. There's the high. There's the high. Just kept edging a little bit higher. Ever so slightly, just overextending a little bit more, but still the retrace is nearing, here it still would be nearing after this bar closed, and here it's likely to be a retrace, and yeah, it kind of did emerge from here, because it kind of just looked like it kind of just formed nicely, and then formed downside. So just as intent to trade's wearing off a little bit, of willing to trade with a downside over 3-day time period, it's likely to still be in play here, but it's a bit iffy, because you're right, the lows after participants showed initial signs of maybe not wanting to keep trading with a bid with 3-day time periods primarily, and then this bar closed the way it did, suggesting that this trend of primarily pushing to the downside over these recent past 3-day time periods of what behavior participants had exhibited came to an end, and then this push is likely to retrace this, right? So it's every atom push is it's either just pushing or retracing, right? But at the same time, you've also got the external atom push, which is this low and high, and this would fall under the category of being a continuation. This atom push coming to the downside and coming to an end based on how participants trade and directly contribute to what structure subsequently unravels. And sets this in-play and push up this in-play and push to the downside, and then forming like this falls under the market cycle phase of a continuation, likely to be the in-play phase within the retrace likely. And anyway, yeah, that's what happens. And then the impulses again, you break structure, external market cycle phase, in-play and push structure. This is the in-play and push low and high. And then the way that the participants trade like after this bar close suggests that a retrace is likely to be in play, and I would say at least push to around here, which is like the middle of this imbalance coinciding with. And anyway, participants trade like here, the same thing. And then what does this in play and push to the downside likely to retrace fall under market cycle phases? The retrace, what's like poised to unravel relative to this and push, falls under the category of being a retrace of a continuation market cycle phase impulse push, right? So you got impulse retracement, that's it, or continuation like this. So impulse retracement continuation, which is kind of also an impulse retrace continuation poised to unravel from here. And then it's just like to keep unfolding based on how participants trade. It can contribute to the structure of the in-play and push, and then it's just keep unfolding, quite overextended based on how many consecutive time periods run. Participants maintain the same intent fall relative to how many they did or seem to have done so in prior time periods, and contributed to the structure of prior bars, and how this bar consecutive bar push resembles similar structure of previous pushes. You know, it's poised for like participants that tend to sort of possibly show signs, but until they do so, we'll just keep tracking the push accordingly. So it could just keep it went to the moon. Keep going to the moon. Anyway, so here suggests somewhat signs it's ready to keep pushing higher again. This suggests otherwise. Same thing. Like here. Bit weird and iffy. I wouldn't mark up anything here. Here looks good. It looks good to retrace to the upside. Now, yeah, and then the way that this bar forms immediately says otherwise, and then it's just like you keep pushing lower. This shows signs that the interest might be diminishing, but based on how this bar closed the way it did after this bar closed the way it did, and the trajectory was quite slanted right lower as a result of the intent behind the push, and it wasn't they didn't trade in a way that set up the push to be done pushing, and it was likely to just keep pushing, but it was showing signs. And anyway, here it does the same thing, and then this bar confirmed that this push to the downside was done, and it's likely to retrace, which is also the case relative to 2 week, etc, etc, right? So yeah, yeah, so this this market cycle phase in play and push to the downside, setting up done here, is a retrace, but it also falls under being a continuation too, because of the external structure. The external structure here is just one big bearish push, right? So this is a retrace, technically, but it's a retrace anyway, to be fair. And then the previous in play and push high was here. So this would just be a retrace until it got above. But like, for example, this is a continuation phase. But if, for example, this is a retrace until it trades above the high of the previous and push, and then it becomes an impulse, and it's just like they keep impulsing if participants trade away what sets up the configuration of each of the bars in the way that suggests that is the case. And the push doesn't look done, pushing as a result of participants' intent being maintained. Hang on.